Did you know that knowing your inner workings of your brain can be the key to fitness success? Well, today we have Gina D'Andrea Penna, a fantastic neuroscientist who's going to be delving deep into the inner workings of the brain and how it can use them to maximize our potential.
So, as Gil said, I'm currently finishing my PhD in neuroscience. And from a very young age, like since high school, probably, I've always been very driven and motivated, whether it came to school or whether it came to exercise. For example, in high school, I was a runner. So, I was that one girl who would always consistently be running every morning without fail. And now, as a lifter, I rarely miss a workout. I'm kind of known as the gym girl by many. And most people attribute that to me being highly disciplined. However, I would really say that it's more a product of the habits that I formed rather than discipline itself. And so today we're going to go through the science of habit formation and how we can use it to guide how we go about making sustainable behavioral change, so that we can achieve success in whatever it is that we want, whether that's fitness and health or other more personal goals.
And some of the strategies and tactics that we're going to be going in today, I can attest to each and every one of them because I've used them in myself. But now, even just knowing like the inner workings, how like the brain works from learning from this girl over here, that it really makes it very easy and straightforward just to understand how you work, so you're able to change yourself at will and be able to get better and better. Now, let's dive deep into the fascinating world of neuroscience and habit formation. Gina?
Well, before we take that dive, I first want to address a common myth, which is that for fitness and health change, or really any change, that we should rely primarily on willpower. Now, although willpower is great, a lot of our daily habits are habitual. So if we want long-term change, we really need to address the underlying habits. And when it comes to habits in the brain, that's supported particularly by the basal ganglia along with other brain regions. And so that's like a subcortical region. So, we have the cortex, which is the more recently developed part of the brain, the stuff kind of on the outer part of the brain. But then we have the subcortical areas, which are underneath, and the basal ganglia is one of those areas. But why it's important to distinguish between those subcortical and cortical regions is that I like to consider what happens to the brain when we're highly stressed, when we're sleep deprived, when we're kind of functioning on autopilot. And during those times, the cortical regions, like the prefrontal cortex, which is commonly associated with things like willpower, it's not really as activated as subcortical regions. So when you're stressed, you're going to have more of those subcortical regions going, which means that you are going to rely primarily on habits than on conscious decision making and willpower, which further supports the notion that we really need to address the underlying habits to achieve change rather than just willpowering our way through it.
So now that we understand the prefrontal cortex and the subcortical regions and how they play a role in habits, let's go into the cue, the routine, and the reward, the cycle of the habit. So, what in the world is that? Well, let's start with the cue. The cue is the trigger that initiates some sort of routine. So, for example, every morning when I wake up, like the alarm rings and I put on my clothes for the gym. That's my cue, and I need to go make some gains ASAP. So then that's when I get into my car, go hit the gym, and get a massive pump. Reward. And so that's when like feeling those endorphins, feeling like the gains of like the pump. And then also like afterwards, like a good protein shake and meal. Whew, fantastic reward. So that's the cue, the routine, and then the reward. And usually it just keeps on going over and over and over again until it becomes second nature.
Now, this habit loop can be used, of course, to form plenty of healthy and good habits, but it can also be used to form bad habits that many of us would rather not have. So, what do we do once we formed a bad habit? So, some things that both of us have used is one, you can remove the cue that actually triggers that habit. Second, we can make it harder to actually perform that habit, basically create barriers between yourself and performing that habit. So, for example, Gil's had plenty of bad habits that he's been able to overcome.
Overcame, that's the key word right there. So yeah, one of the bad habits was eating a lot of like sugary foods, or like also things like chips, basically things that weren't supporting my goals of making major gains at the gym. So what I ended up doing is either making it a little bit more harder for myself, so not even like purchasing those things and bringing them home, or even just kind of like replacing, which is a little bit easier, replacing them with options that support my goals better. So, for example, buying maybe like high protein chips, 0 calorie soda instead of like the sugary ones. Those are going to support my gains a lot more.
And another useful strategy that I've employed is called implementation intentions. So basically, beforehand, creating these if then statements. So, if certain conditions occur, then I will do whatever this behavior is that I want to do. So, specifically, when it comes to work, I've told myself if I'm working right now and I know I really need a break and I'm not being productive, then I will stop and I'll do a short mobility session or I'll go for a walk. Because I know that if I go for a walk or if I do mobility, I'll both kind of recover whatever it is that I need to rejuvenate myself so that I can be more productive returning, rather than just continuing to try to do work when I know I'm putting out crap or going on social media and wasting my time elsewhere. So another strategy when it comes to forming habits is to take small steps, because I've both found with myself, and I know that the research says that making small changes is more sustainable. So you'll be more consistent with it. So it actually becomes a habit. So for example, when I've tried to form the habit of doing breath work or meditation daily, I tell myself at the start, just try to do 5 minutes every day, just 5 minutes. And that seems a lot more attainable than telling myself that I have to do 30 minutes every day, which probably isn't going to happen. In addition to that, you can make the desired behavior or the thing you want to become habitual as easy as possible or more convenient. So for instance, if I want to work out the next day, I'll often put out my workout clothes the night before, which, wake up, throw on the clothes, go to the gym. Or when it comes to food, if I meal prep, I'll have nutritious food, easily at hand throughout the week, so I don't even have to think about it. And the research finds that it takes an average of 66 days to actually form a habit. So it is important to make changes that you will be able to do for a long period of time, or else you'll never get to the point where it'll become habitual. Also, it's important to realize that consistency or progress is much more important than perfection, because even if maybe you miss a day or two once in a while, it's more important that you do it the majority of the time than that you do it perfectly all the time.
Have you ever heard of temptation bundling? Well, let me tell you about it. It's when you pair something that you find more rewarding with something that you find less rewarding. So, for example, say you find watching a show very rewarding, that Netflix binge, but maybe you don't find it as rewarding walking on a treadmill. You bundle two things together, something that's more rewarding with something that's less. It makes the one that's less just easier to do.
Yeah, so for example, for me, a couple of things that I've used temptation bundling for is back when I was back home in Maryland, every afternoon I would ride the stationary bike, which might not seem inherently rewarding, but while I was riding it, I would read a book that I've been wanting to read. So it basically built up the habit of riding that bike while also getting in reading every afternoon. And another instance in which I've used temptation bundling is for walking. So when I walk, usually I'll listen to a podcast that I enjoy, or I'll catch up with a friend, which makes the walk all the more enjoyable. Another technique is called habit stacking. So with habit stacking, you basically take a pre-existing habit and then you attach whatever behavior it is that you want to become a new habit to it. So it makes it easier to perform that desired behavior. So for example, if you have lunch every day and you want to start going for walks, you can make sure that after lunch you go for a walk.
And one thing that I've done habit stacking with is to get the habit of meditation. So I actually found like the best time for me to meditate is actually after the gym or after a shower. And thankfully I shower daily. So it makes it very easy to to like meditate afterwards, because that's like the immediate trigger. Get out of the shower, relaxed, and do a meditation. Or maybe after the gym, just in order to calm down, it's also my trigger to just meditate. And it makes that habit just easier to do daily. And the last thing is the effect of your social environments, your social milieu, as Gina likes to put it, on your behaviors. So we all know that your environment plays a very crucial role in the behaviors that we make. But did you know that the people that you hang around with actually makes a substantial impact on the results that you get, on essentially how your life turns out? So for me, I really like to surround myself with the people that have the same priorities, goals as me. So in my case, like partying, doing a bunch of those things, that's not really my priority. Don't get a lot of satisfaction from that. Mostly get satisfaction and a lot more like feel more stimulated and happy when I'm just working on the thing that I want to do and working with the people that I want to do with. I get more satisfaction from improving myself. So it's by surrounding myself with like those people that have those same priorities of going to the gym, of wanting to improve themselves, wanting to get better at whatever there is, whether it's fitness, whether it's business, whether it's career, whether it's whatever it is. I just really like to enjoy myself and surround myself with those people.
All right, well, we hope you guys found that helpful. I mean, it certainly has helped us, so hopefully it can help you too. And if it does, drop a comment, let us know. And like this video, share it with anyone who you think it could help. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. You can follow us on Instagram. And lastly, join our Facebook group, Mind Body Mastery for High Performers, where you can get exclusive content, including notes to these videos, and meet like-minded people in our community.